Morning everyone, Nimby here. I'll be tying the Comet today, which is a salmon steelhead fly. Also works great for brook trout and the smaller sizes. You can tie it through size 8 up to 1/0, but 2 and 4s are kind of the most common size. This one would be a 4. I'm going to tie the thread in, giving ourselves about a bodkin or a 1/2 inch width to the eye there. I'm just going to make a normal thread wrap all the way to the barb. Hey wee man, good to have you in, mate. Doing some cormets today, which is a common steelhead fly up here. Salmon steelhead in any case. I'm just gonna stop just after the halfway point here and back up a hair. Right there. Just the bend on this hook, I don't want to go too far back because the bend on this style starts a little bit earlier. Normally it would be kind of in parallel with the barb. You can see there's quite a drop there, so we're just going to start a little bit back from that. I'm using white thread, Simplify Classic Wax. What are we using, size 6 or 8? Size 8. You can definitely go heavier. Okay, we're going to tie in a bunch of deer hair. This is orange bucktail. I haven't washed it yet, it's still greasy. from the fly we did the other day. That's exceedingly greasy, unfortunately. But we'll make do until I can wash and dry the thing. I don't remember who said it, I think it might have been Yoshi. Said it might have been the detergent that they used to clean it after the fact, but whatever they did, they didn't clean it well. Okay, so we're going to do the whole length of the shank here. Hey Maddie, hey Robert. Thanks for joining me and Wee Man this morning. Doing a Comet salmon fly. Oop. Do a light wrap on top here if I can manage one. Really acting like it wants to spin on me. Come on, buddy, behave yourself now. I'm tying this just because the bucktail we're using the other day, I haven't cleaned it yet, and like I was saying, it's exceedingly on the kind of greasy side, so I'm gonna tie this tail in a couple chunks just to make life easier on myself. Feel free to tie it all in one chunk if you got a better bucktail. If you're going for a smaller size, like if you're tying this in like an 8 or 8-10 or what have you for brook trout, like that would be more than enough for a tail. If you're tying it for salmon or steelhead though, that's probably not going to be enough because they get beat up real bad in the rivers, and you want a substantial size tail for it. So I've been stacking some here, but saying this stuff is been a bear to get to stack properly. I'm gonna be just pulling it out by the tips here and then tying it in is, I think, my best option. So we're just gonna do that. Just gonna have to give me a second to fight with this. We're actually going to be tying two very similar flies that are on my list here because they have almost exactly the same materials. We're going to be doing the Comets, and we're going to be doing the fall favorite, which is basically just a Comet without a tail and a wing instead. But in essence, it's pretty much the same fly. Okay, I've successfully split that down now. I didn't want all that in the wing, or in the tail. I got a pretty even bunch for the tail here now. I think that'll do it. Okay, so again, we're just going to measure that out to be the shank length. And ideally, of course, you'd want to tie that in all in one go, but until I get that bucktail cleaned up, I'm going to have to modify it a bit so I get nice clean packs. No worries, wee man. Enjoy some breakfast, eh? I guess it's more like lunch in your spot. Or dinner? Dinner. Right. Wrong time zone. Okay, so this is going to have a uni French wrapped body on it. Ooh, and of course my spool came undone. Oh no. That's not good. Give me a second. Sproing. Yeah, if you let these things go, they just go everywhere. But that's not as bad as I could have been, thankfully. Hey, well, since it's all sproinged out, we may as well cut our body lengths. That's our next step here anyway. Well, about a hand length and a half. Might actually need a bit more, but we're going to go with that to start with. Hopefully I don't need a bit more. And again, this is just medium uni French. You can use, definitely move up to a large. I just don't have any large in silver for this fly. Haven't been able to find a large in a good little while, actually, to be honest. So I'm just going to kind of lightly wrap this going forward. And to make it easier on myself, you can just pinch the bucktail as you're wrapping it. That'll keep it from spinning around the hook as bad. When we get back to our tie-in point there, let's do about 3 or 4 good wraps, and then we'll clean that off and tie it back in. And that's just going to give us an evener body. Since we are using Uni French is still a tinsel, but since we're making a tinsel body, we want to have that as relatively smooth as we can get it anyway. We have a few fibers sticking forward. That's not a big deal at all. We just want to leave a semi-bare spot right in here for laying the head. I'm going to switch to a rusty Is it rust orange? I think I'm going to use. I got it down there. I got to pick it up. I think it's rust orange. I am just going to redo this body packing a little bit tighter, and then we'll tie in our uni French. But that's what we're shooting for, is just kind of an even packed body. That one actually went fairly well for me. But we're not going for perfect because we're tying in our uni French now, and then we can cord it down a little better at that point. Fairly easy fly because it just has basically 3 materials to it. We're going to use the oversized orange hackle that I have. I do need to find some slightly smaller ones. But we moved up a couple hook sizes compared to yesterday, so that should help us out for this part here. Just going to do about 3 or 4 really good wraps by the butt here, just so we can pull on that uni French a bit and get it nice and tight. And then I'm gonna continue back, and this is where I'm gonna be concentrating on binding down and leveling that body out. Doesn't need a huge amount of work. It's pretty decent. Better than most, actually. Better than most. But what you want to do at this point is just filling in any of the valleys with your thread, and then crushing any of the hills. And a good habit to get into is just to use your bodkin and just rake it over the top. And if your eyesight's not great, you'll see your bodkin jumping around a lot if you hit any large hills or valleys, so that's pretty good. I'm happy with that. You'll get a little vibration from the thread, though. That's not a big deal. Just going to give it a quick varnish to remove some of that thread bump. Not going crazy with it, just a little bit. It'll help everything lay down nice. We're not using a flat tinsel in this case, we're using the oval tinsel, but it still helps to have a fairly smooth body. The next fly we're doing, the fall favorite, does have a tinsel body though. That's the one major difference between the two, and no tail. Okay, so we're going to, where'd my half hitch go? Since we have such a big eye on this one, I'm going to use my big half hitch tool. Throw 2 half hitches on there. Get this up in the bob and cradle morning. If your morning's going as well as mine, it's Mr. Ewaz. Pleasure to have you in, man. And that calls for some tea celebration. Oh. I know I don't have my brown cup today. I got my Hell's Gate cup. I used to have a bunch of these. These are old, from made in Japan, but they used to be able to find these in BC all over the place, and for all the different tourist locations around BC. Every once in a while I find one in a thrift store now. This is just a really comfortably molded mug for me. Okay, so we got that in there, so now we can use the rotary. Cheers. And I'm using white in this case for thread. You don't have to. You can definitely use your standard black thread. There we go. And I'm keeping a fair attention for that first bit. We just want like really tight touching wraps here. And it should spiral up itself. It's normally pretty good about that. Morning, Valhalla. No worries, mate. Thanks for dropping in. I'm gonna just throw some pliers on the end of this just in case it goes sproing on me. Just as a little bit of safety. Oh, am I actually gonna run out? Did I mess that up? Woohoo! Well, we'll see how close we get though. I guess I should have cut off quite a bit more. I thought I was actually cutting off too much. Yeah, I'm short. Yeah, let's back it up a little bit here. That's good. We'll tie in another piece just to finish this off. Okay, I guess you need like 2 hand lengths then, not a hand length and a half. My bad. I thought I had more than enough there. Normally that's enough. Although I did move up several hook sizes, so no biggie. We'll just tie this off, tie another piece in. Guess I've been tying the small hooks too long. Thank you, Robert. You're an awesome dude. I'm just gonna touch that tag end down, move back up. Don't really need a lot. I cut an extra long piece here just so I can use it for the next one. I'm not sure if that affects my channel or not. I don't know what happens if you unsub and resub. Yeah, Maddie's family's been battling the ick. Ours finished it, thankfully. We had it for a little while there. 'Tis the season, though, sadly. Yeah, I'm gonna get just a hair of a little lip there, but nothing crazy. It's not an Instagram fly anymore, but the fish won't notice. There we go. Okay, so you're gonna need 2 hand lengths to wrap up a body on that. Which I should have here, so 1 hand length, 2 hand lengths. Okay, so we'll see if 2 hand lengths will do us for the next one. Welcome, NC. Okay, so for the next part, we're going to tie in some orange hackle. All the hackle I have that's this right fluorescent orange is generally all too long. Well, maybe not in this case. Thank you, Robert. Yes, Robert's exactly right. We're just all hanging out, relaxing, learning to tie some flies. And that's what we do pretty much every morning here. Nice, chill environment. A lot of people that join our stream too don't necessarily tie; they just enjoy watching it. They find it relaxing and enjoyable. Just gonna take some of this larger space stuff off here. It's just a hair too long. It's nice and fluffy though. So the kind of feather that you want for these are going to be these larger spay feathers. Let me grab a non-stripped one for you guys. This one's a little bit on the big side, but as comparison. So what you're looking for to make a spay feather, hopefully the camera can pick this up. Yeah, you can see it there. So if you look in the center of this feather, you'll see that there's a pattern in the middle here. And every feather actually has that pattern, you just can't see it very well on some feathers than you can on others. But your spay feather has this in spades, hence the name. So you want it to come out nice and thick at the bottom, and you want to tie it in about mid patch, so about there. And that'll give you the kind of robust, fluffy hackle that you'd want to see on a salmon or steelhead fly. So it has that lifelike movement to it. I'm going to tie this in pretty robustly to also give us a nice flat base to wrap this on. And then we'll tie it off right up front here. Oh, well, there goes my hackle pliers. That's too bad. Well, I'll use some of my thicker ones. Depending on how things go, we'll either tie a few of these, or I'll switch over to the... Oh, no. Okay, broke the racus, so we'll just try that again. Cool! Congrats on the fridge and stove then. That's a lot of work. Watch your back, eh? Ugh, I need a magnetic desk. I do have one down there. Yeah, having like one of those little retractable magnetic things, that's actually not a bad idea. I should probably grab one. It's not like it's impossible for me to bend over and pick stuff up. It's just with all the cords and lighting and camera stuff I got around me, it's a real pain to have to bend down and get stuff. So I gotta move everything. Alright, round two. Just building this up so it's a little flatter up top here. There. I'd normally do a half hitch on there, but like I said, this is the only orange hackle I have of this type and this kind of orange that I need. And it's not horrible stuff by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not great either. I'm gonna try this other hackle pliers because I dropped my other ones. So let's do that. And what you're going for here is you're going for, again, this is a wet fly, obviously, so it's not going to be, I mean, I guess you could try and fish these dry, but it's not meant to be up on top of the water column. It's meant to be dragged through the water column. And this is just meant to have a lot of movement and life to it and kind of piss the fish off. In essence, you're trying to invoke a predatory response from the steelhead. It does look real nice once it's tied in, though. I will give it that. It has a real nice spay hackle look to it. And that's what you're wanting with the spay hackles. You want it to be... I'm trying to think of a good analogy for it. You want it loose and you want it to have life. You don't want it to be like a dry-fi bottle brush kind of thing when you're done with it. Oh, good. Yeah, I'm hoping Maddie and his family recover from all that. Of all the things we have in life, our health is the most important by far. Can't do none of it without it. And I'm glad to hear that your yearly went well. I don't get those anymore, but I got them for years when I worked for the government. We all had to get yearly full physicals and blood work and everything. Just trying to get these couple fibers here back. There we go. As I say that, 3 more pop 4. Ain't that just the way though, right? Just want to get a couple wraps in here. Dude, settle down. I'll get them all straightened out in a second here. Oh my gosh. Come on. I'm saying, I'll get them settled down in a second. I just want to get the thread tied up. Overall, that went well, though. I'm happy with how that laid. There we go. So you basically want a big old orange mess of hackle up front. Just like that. That's a pretty classic Comet head. Anyway, pulling this back again, like I was saying, because it's not a dry fly, it's a wet fly. And we're not going to push them, we're not going to angle it so much back, but just a little bit. So you want to have it on just a slight angle. It's not so much for the presentation in the water, but having it on a slight angle, especially when you're casting bigger. Yes, that's true. You'll feel it literally. You'll feel the barb, and there's a few times, like a lot of times when I'm tying and doing that and pushing back, it'll be just buried into my skin just a little bit, and like you can feel it. You get used to it actually though. Yeah. But I have definitely speared myself a few times not paying attention. Okay, so I wanted to switch threads at this point to make a nice head on there. We got it tied back right where I want it. Just trying to clean this up a little bit before I move forward. Okay, yeah, so I'm gonna tie that off. We're just gonna do some half hitches on it. And I'm gonna make a more bulbous head here. And we're gonna use some I got brown on the table. We're gonna switch the brown out for a rust. And again, the you can use black, you can use whatever. You don't even need to change your thread. You can color this with a Sharpie if you wanted to. Got a lot of different options, including losing the end of your thread so you can't get it in a little thingy thing. There we go. Cool. Is he doing them weekly then, I'm assuming? On Thursdays? Classes are important, like just keeping up with them. Like you make it into a weekly routine, that's where you're going to start really picking up on all your bad habits and flaws and everything, and picking up new skills. It's probably the most important thing if you're trying to improve is to just be consistent at how often you do it. And that doesn't matter, like if you tie daily like I do, or if you tie weekly, or even bi-weekly. It's just, you just want to be consistent with it. Change my mind, I'm just going to throw a quick whip finish on that. Just a small little 3-turner. And I'm not worried about that coming apart so much because we're going to be burying it with this next thread on the head here. And again, this is not a required step by any means. I could easily have just colored this up. Come on now. Could have easily just colored this up with a Sharpie marker. Yeah, you bet. Classes are great, like don't get me wrong. Especially when you're first starting, because you don't have that, you know, that second opinion from someone else, or being able just to see other people's work at the same time is a big deal. So, but you'll get there. It's just a time thing. It reminds me actually of when I used to really enjoy martial arts like Aikido and Aikido Jitsu and different things. And my sensei at the time, because I was really into it, I'm like, how often should I be practicing? Like, should I be practicing every, like, several times a day, every day? And I was really, really, really into it. And he's like, you got to remember that this is a hobby, and yeah, exactly. And he's like, you know, it's like it's a hobby. He's like, you got to think of it like fly fishing. And he didn't know at the time I was a big fly fisherman. And he's like, you might only go fly fishing once a month or once a year. And he's like, you know, you just thoroughly enjoy it for the time that you have. But he picked like the wrong analogy, because of course, you know, I told him like, well, I fish like every day. He's like, oh. But yeah, it reminds me of that conversation, because it's there's no wrong amount as long as you're enjoying it. And obviously the more time you put in, the faster you'll get better at it. Not necessarily though, like you can get to the point where you're just stuck in your own trap and not progressing. And that's where the things like classes, or, you know, live tying like this. Live tying is great for making you better at things, because for a number of reasons. Oh my gosh. Wow, did I ever bump my thread there? I haven't done that in a bit. Alright. Lost about 4 or 5 wraps there. But I just wanted to get that yellow head on there. Yeah, that's what they say, right? 10,000 hours and you'll be a master at anything. And that's kind of the point. Well, the only difference is no one hands you a cookie when you're done, right? Oh, that's good tea. Yeah, I just wanted to switch over to this is it burnt orange? I don't remember if this is burnt orange or brown. Rust brown. Color doesn't really matter, but I just thought the rust brown would match really well with the Hackle, and it does. So instead of trying to color my white thread, it's just as easy to throw this on here. I'm just going to sink in a couple half inches here. And that's really just cosmetic. I mean, that's not really doing anything for the fly. Obviously, it's making a nice tighter head. And in theory, I guess I could have tied the whole fly with this orange thread. It wouldn't matter because everything's covered up. I do like to use a lighter colored thread if I'm doing like a foil body like that, because if you make any mistakes, because this isn't a solid piece of foil, right? It's like wire. So if you have any miswraps at all, you're going to see whatever's behind it. And the white thread does help it to, you know, not be as noticeable. Hey, Water Fox, good to see you, mate. I've seen you in a few of the other lives. Good to have you in. Who did I see? I can't remember if you were in. Were you in Turner's? I can't remember if it was Turner's or Ruben's channel. I've seen you in a couple of the other ones, though. I appreciate that. It's good to have you in. Forgot what I was doing though. Did I get my half inches in there? Apparently I did. Okay, well we'll have to get the whip finish going then. But yeah, I was just switching up the thread because that color is kind of smack on perfect for this head. But it's all personal preference. If you want a nice glossy black head, you can definitely go that way too. Generally speaking, that's the direction I'll go with most of my salmon and steelhead flies. Nice big glossy black head. I do like that. Yeah, I got another semi-local on the channel. That's cool. We get so many people from all over the world. I actually have a large group of people that watch from Russia and India and Ukraine. Not quite as much as I used to, because I used to tie more in the evenings when they were all up. But still a good chunk. I think it's still like, actually probably like 17 or 18% of my viewership's from that area, which is cool. So yeah, if you're watching and you're from another country, not counting the guys across the pond, but obviously that's another country. Everyone, welcome and thank you for coming in. South Africa, cool. There's so many good fly tires in South Africa. I don't know what it is about the African continent, but there's some really friggin' skilled fly tires from there. The materials are all sorts of different things. So your main material that you're going to be using for pretty much every fly is going to be thread. We use two different systems of size for our threads. So we use either an aught system or a denier system. Denier is a little bit more common now. Although, since you're in... Oh no, sorry, you're not the one from Africa. Sorry, you have a similar icon, but you're probably going to find denier more often than not. So if you're starting off, anything around 70 denier, 72, 74, 76 is going to be where you want to start. And if you're finding aughts and you want to go 6 or 8 aught, I definitely recommend the 6 aught. It's a little bit thicker than 8 just to start off with. Or you can go even thicker if you want. I'm just going to do a little whiff of Sally Hansen's on there, just to shine her up and give it a little bit more durability. Oh, good to have you from the Philippines. That's cool. I don't have many tying friends that I watch from the Philippines, but there's lots of really good fishermen in the Philippines. Like A1, really down-to-earth skilled fishermen in the Philippines. But yeah, general rule of thumb is we take a bear hook, which is iron, and we tie feathers and fur. In this case, this is deer hair back here. That's dyed orange. And then we embellish it with shiny things like tinsel to make them shiny. And feathers up front to give it a lifelike movement in the water. So that's a pretty standard orange Comet, which is the original pattern. That's a highly effective fly for rivers around here. Western steelhead, you know, it's a pattern all up and down the west coast. It's really common. You can tie in all different kind of color variations. This is probably the most common. You can have a bead head on it or bead chain eyes. I was actually going to throw some red bead chain eyes on there, but I forgot. So I might do that on the next one, actually. Thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to do my little spin and spiel. It's not quite dry yet, so we'll give it another minute. Yeah, that's what I mean. A lot of them are really skilled fishermen, and there's a lot of urban fishing there. Actually hosted a family from the Philippines there, and the father was a fisherman. But we were hosting his family and providing support for their family because the father lost one of his legs and one of his arms, so he only had one arm and one leg left, but he was still out there every day fishing. And man, he was skilled. He could just haul stuff in. Okay, so I'm gonna do my little spin and spiel. 1 second here. My clip fell off. There we have a classic orange Comet. This is a really highly effective fly for steelhead up and down the west coast. For rivers and streams. It can be tied in a number of different colors. The orange is the most common traditional color. It has an orange bucktail for the tail. It has a medium-sized uni-French tinsel body. You can tie it in a flat tinsel. The uni-French tinsel will throw a little bit more light and be a little more durable for you. And an orange spay hackle up front with a little bit of rusted brown uni thread for the head. Really simple pattern. You can also tie it with a bead head with weighted dumbbell eyes or bead chain eyes as well, and that'll give you a little bit more weight in the front if you're fishing a little bit faster currents. Wonderful little pattern. Great if you're just starting out with steelhead or salmon fishing in rivers, or even just going after some bigger brook trout or browns. It's an excellent pattern for all those. You can tie up a few, throw a few in your box, eh? It's not that they can only catch a specific type of fish, it's that they're generally tied for a specific species. There's certain species that'll just kind of almost eat anything. So you can catch a lot of fish on any fly, or a lot of different types of fish on almost any fly. But they're specifically tied for what each species kind of keys in on. Like for instance, with steelhead, they key in on bright colors. A lot of flash, they key in on a lot of movement, so that's why we got a lot of big oversized hackle up here and tails. And they're territorial, so they get ticked off if something else comes into their what we call a red, or if they're have an area where they're going to make a nest to lay their eggs and everything, and they'll protect that fiercely. So if anything comes through that's even remotely sized, they'll attack it. And not so much to eat it, just to tell it to bugger off. But yeah, there's different fish species, obviously, and each one has different things it keys in on, depending on what its chosen food source is. Some fish eat almost specifically other fish, so like minnows and baitfish, and they typically have a whiter meat if that's the case. And some fish eat bugs, and every fly kind of represents a different different type of other animal that it's trying to eat. Okay, so we'll pop that out here. We'll get going on some more. These are the ones I was going to do up today, are these. We're going to do these tomorrow, though, probably. The blue charms. One of my favorite. They just take a good bit of time to prep the materials, and I didn't have time to do that this morning. So, Comet was the next one on my list, so that's why we're doing that today. Ugh. You can see he's substantially bigger than his friends. Got the Ants Go Marching song. I had this specifically in here for Vilgrim's daughter because she loves it every time it comes on. But she's not in my streams anymore because she's sleeping. But there, if you're wondering why I had the Ants Go Marching, that's why. Because she thought it was cute. And I thought it was cute that she thought it was cute, so it stayed in my playlist. Okay, so we're gonna go. I'm gonna actually stick with the white thread, and we're gonna do the. One second. My Vise says that the hook is straight, but it sure looks not straight to me, but that's okay. We'll go with it. So I'm going to be starting my thread, and we want to start it like a 1/2 inch tool width from the front there, so we got a lot of room. We're going to be tying in our wing in about this location here. So I'm going to start my thread base right there, giving me some room in the front. So it's pretty much the same fly without a tail and with a wing. It's called a Vise, I guess, for lack of a better way. Yeah, it's tilted down. It's a little bit in cross between my camera and... I'm not sure, because, see, when I rotate it, the head is not turning, and that's really what I want. The rest of it doesn't matter as much. I want that axis of rotation to be correct more than I care about the rest. But it does look like it's really rotated down, so let's see if we can compensate that a bit and fix it. Now that looks like it's too high, and if I rotate, you can see how much that spins around now. It's not in a nice tight circle. Give me a second here, we'll play with that, see if we can get it happy. Yeah, it does look like it was pointing down, and that was kind of irritating me. That's probably a good happy medium, but oop, I got my point there. That's not good. That'll work. I do have my Vise set up for smaller hooks, and I have to adjust it. So let's do that, because I'm going to be tying bigger hooks for a few days here. My Vise has many, many different adjustment points for the rotation. And let's see if that fixed it. That's better. Alright. Yeah. It's not just good, it's good enough. Okay, I'm just making a little bit of a thread butt here. And we're going to go all the way back. And And I want to try and keep this. I'm not doing the best job in the world, to be honest with you, but I want to keep the thread base as clean as I can. So we're going to be doing a flat tinsel body. And it is still important that you have a thread base on it. A lot of people try and wrap it directly on the beer shank, but really unless you're gluing it down, it's going to move all over the place if you do that. Okay, so for the body on this one, we're going to be using a flat tinsel. Like this guy. Just a flat, shiny tinsel. This is just your regular old Christmas tinsel, nothing crazy. It is a plastic mylar tinsel. And we're going to wrap it all the way there and then all the way back again. Oop, as I drop it. Let's not drop our materials, Nimby. And the biggest thing about wrapping the tinsel in, as far as what you want to pay mind to, is you want to make sure you have this length here tinsel free, because your materials are going to be really slippy on the tinsel when you're tying in the wing in that. You do not want to have tinsel underneath it, or it's going to go all cattywampus on you. Okay, I'm going to throw a 1/2 inch in my white thread here, and all that's really going to do, not only lock the thread down so it doesn't unravel, but it'll allow me to put the thread off to the side in my bobbin holder, and that way I see the thread's just completely loose now. So that way when I'm spinning the hook, I'm not actually wrapping it, well, in theory, depending on how things go. Yeah, this thing here. That's my vise. Can't show you the whole thing, but there are many, 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 many different styles and types of vise. They come in price ranges from $10 all the way up to $1,000. This one is a $1,000 vise. Oh, hey, let's try that again. I pulled too hard on it. That was 100% Nimby's fault. Let's try again. So, when you're prepping this stuff to tie in, it's generally better if you can, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily recommend. I'm just gonna try and unravel this a little bit and then tie it back down. I was saying, if you're doing a lot of saltwater flies, it's definitely, in my opinion, more of a saltwater vise than what I use to tie it with. The only reason I have it is I got a really good deal on it at a marketplace. I only spent 40 bucks on it. So, you know, if you can find a vise, $1,000 vise for $40, it doesn't matter what type of vise it is, jump on it. Right? Okay, so generally speaking, you want to tie your tinsel in flat along the length of the shank like that. But what we're going to be doing on this one is we're going to be going all the way that way and then all the way back. So I'm just tying in just the nib. The downside of that, as you just saw, is it can pull out instead of having it tied in all the way along the length of the shank. So I have to be a little bit more careful. Once it's tied in, since it's wrapping on itself, it won't come undone. But that first half dozen wraps or so is a little bit sketchy. So I'll try that again. This is the fun part of tying live, is everyone gets to see all the mistakes too, and that's a big part of this. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing this for, you're going to make mistakes. Like right there. And finding a way to overcome the mistakes is a big part of fly tying. Or like anything else, like any other art or any other thing that you do. There's going to be problems and mistakes, and you finding a way to overcome those is the difference between you being an artist and a machine pumping them out. Okay, so I'm just adding a little bit of head cement just on the top. And just a whiff, like literally a drop for that whole length. And what that'll do is that'll bind to this and cause it to slip around less, because this is extremely slippery. It's basically just a small sheet of plastic is what it is. Now I'm not too worried about any corner popping that comes out on the way down, because I'm going to be covering that up on the way back. I'm still going to try and get this as smooth as I can. So we got one right there. Sorry, who's leaving? Robert, and thanks for copping in, Robert. You can see here I had a corner pop out. That's extremely common for doing a flat body like this. Since it's right at the start, I am going to back up and do that again. So a lot of times if you get one popping out like that, you can fix it by bringing it back over and then actually pulling down this direction. Yeah, a lot of people go with Regal for sure. That's probably going to be about as good as I'm going to get there. But this is why your thread base is the most important part of this fly. Oh gosh, stop popping so much, man. Wow. Yeah, this kind of body, it looks really simple and easy to do, but it takes a lot of yeah, and I tied like maybe my first like 10,000 flies on a regular non-rotary vise. So a lot of times you'll see me just going at it without using the rotary. The rotary comes in handy for things like this, like don't get me wrong. It does make it easier for sure, but you don't need it. Like it definitely can get by your whole tying career without a rotary vise. It's really just a convenience. I'm trying to not... I just want to get this... Come on, man, I almost had you. You want to just pass that thread base just by like half a wrap. And then when you put your tension the other direction, it should bind it against that last couple wraps of thread. I'm just going to have to do this part by hand because I don't want to get caught on that hook point. But yeah, you'll see me do a lot of hand wrapping like this too, just because I've done it for thousands of flies, so sometimes my muscle memory works better than the rotary. But as you can tell, when you get the rotary down, like I said, that's hard to say because it's, like I said, I've tied thousands of flies on cheap, like I've literally worn out cheap East Indian made vices, right? And they work fine. The only thing is eventually, because of the metallurgy isn't really spot on, you're going to wear out your vise jaws. I've wanted to try, like if I was doing, and it depends on what kind of tying I was doing too, right? I've wanted to try a Regal vise. Yeah, that's true. On the video though, everyone likes the rotary stuff. Everyone likes the spinny spin. Come on, doggo, come here. I don't know if you can hear my dog in the background, he wants out. Okay, so that's a pretty decent flat mylar body. I'm happy with that one. There's one or two like little nicks. You can see how easy it is for just a lump of thread to kick it out. And there's a little bit of a nick here and there, but I mean fish aren't gonna care. And most fly fishermen aren't gonna even notice if that's in a box at a fly shop, right? The nice thing about doing these kind of bodies is they're extremely cheap to practice, right? You can do hundreds of these for just a couple dollars or thousands, because you can get a whole box of Well, this isn't the same tinsel, but you get the idea. You get a whole box of Christmas tinsel like this, literally for like $1.50, right? So like there's 2,000 strands in there. This is the thinner, smaller tinsel, but you could still use it. But you can get the idea. You can get the same stuff in bigger tinsel, which is what I'm using now, for a couple of dollars. So you could get really good at these for almost nothing. The downside of the cheaper tinsel like that, though, is it is very stiff. It's a lot harder to tie with. So it does take a little bit of practice. It's not as friendly as the fly shop tinsel or the stuff on a spool. It's a lot smoother. This stuff's very, very coarse, almost like chip bag stiffness. What do you want, buddy? What are you doing? Come here. You want to say hi? Come on. Come here. Say hi. Up, up. Up, up. Come on. Come on. Up, up. Are you shy? Come on. Come on. Up, up. Say hi to everyone. Here. He doesn't like my cords. Come on. Up, up. Come on. Come here. Come here. There's Puppers. Hey, what's your problem? Why are you whining so much? Hey, I don't know if he wants outside or what his issue is because he's not whining at the door. What's your problem? Here, I'll put you outside. You can sort out your problem, okay? Be right back, guys. There we go. Thanks for waiting. Yeah, that's Rubble, my doggo. How can you tell I got kids? He's a great dog. We got about, oh, I guess he wants back in. We got a half a foot of snow out there, so he's not going to want to stay out too long. Yeah, I'll get to Vises in a sec here, so let me let my dog in. Sorry about that. Most people don't mind me taking a break for the doggo, though. Sorry, just let me catch up on chat here. Yeah, if you're looking for like a good workhorse vise that's not gonna bankrupt you, Renzetti's the way to go. I haven't actually tied on one. Well, that's not true. I've tied on a few of my friends at like little gatherings and whatever. There isn't really any downside to a Renzetti vise. That's the thing. They're a good kind of master catch-all vise, especially like the Traveler. There's nothing bad I could say about it. It's a little bit of a lighter vise, like if you're tying a lot of heavy, like say saltwater salmon stuff or just saltwater in general, you might want something a little heavier, but it can do everything. Just like this vise can technically do everything, it's definitely meant for hooks this size or bigger. It works so well with them. It'll hold them strong enough I could just twist and bend the hook up before it's gonna let go. And I can tie smaller stuff on it, which is 90% of my tying. So I would actually like to have a smaller set of jaws on this that's meant for they call them midge jaws or smaller jaws. And I would absolutely love to have some midge jaws for this, because most of my tying is in that size realm. Okay, so we got our body, and sorry, kind of going off on a tangent there. As far as vices, if I didn't have this one, it would depend on what kind of tying I'm doing. Like if I was doing production tying where I was just whipping off a whole bunch of stuff really quickly, I'd like to try and I've only tied on knockoffs, but like an actual Regal vise. Mostly because it has the way the jaws are set up on it is they're spring loaded, so it always has tension on your hook, and you can just release it with just your thumb, just pushing the lever on the Regal to release the hook. So if you're doing a lot of production and you're just pumping it out, not that it's a lot harder to use a cam system like this, um, but if I was moving from one size hook to another or just different hooks, the Regal vise, the way that it clamps, it negates that because it's always got tension on the hook. So I'd probably move to like a Regal. I don't know, probably rotary if I'm doing production because the rotary does spin the production up. Um, I've never actually tied on an actual Regal. I've tied on lots of knockoff Regals. But if I'm just at home tying, I just use whatever vise I had available in whatever shop I could find it in. To be honest, the the vice's only job is to hold the hook. So if I had a vise that held the hook and made sure it didn't slip out on me, like this one's not going anywhere, because it actually has small little detents. You can see the little circular holes in there. So if I have a hook big enough to go into those holes, like probably about a size 2 plus, works in that first hole, and then there's a second hole for even bigger hooks back there. Um, if it's in that hole in the vise, it's not gonna go anywhere. I could bend this hook, twist it around, and it's not gonna move because of the way it's locked in. So that part's cool. But as far as just being like, generally this question, is going to be pointed at a new tire. Just whatever vise you can find for whatever value point you can afford. Your vise is going to be kind of like your main tool next to your bobbin. But I've completely worn out like $10 and $20 vices and tied thousands of flies on it. So there's no reason to not go that way, in my opinion. I know a lot of people will tell you different and tell you to go for a really expensive vise, but it's extremely solid. Like the vise itself weighs like, I don't know, almost 20 pounds. It's a tank. That's the other problem with this vise is it's big. Like it's not something I'd want to travel with. It's beefy. It's got actual like ball bearing bushings and everything in it, and Teflon and lots of brass, and it's all machined out of like solid pieces instead of they're using plastic or whatever. But the downside of that is it's a tank. It weighs a lot, but it doesn't move from my bench, so I don't really care in this case, right? It's a fixture of my bench, so it doesn't bother me. But if I was traveling a lot, yeah, I'd get like a Renzetti or something that's light and small. Mm. Um, Here, actually, give me a second. I'll grab one of my other vices here, since we're on this subject before we keep going. As I'm knocking everything left and right. Blah. Okay, so this is your box standard. I'm gonna try and get this in frame. This is your box standard. This one does have a rotary function in it, so it will rotary. But this is your box standard kind of vise you'd get off the internets, made in India. This one was actually my father-in-law's, and I did tie lots of flies with it. And it has interchangeable tips on it, so you can get different hooks in there, better and less better. But this one would retail, $40 range, right? You could tie thousands of flies on this before you wear it out for $40, and you wouldn't have any problem with it. And a lot of my first videos were all tied with this vise. The next one's down from this or up, depending or even in the same kind of range, would be the Thompson vices. They don't make them anymore, but there's gobs of them floating around the market because they were kind of the standard vise during all the 80s and 90s. So you get a Thompson Model A, which I don't have handy or I'd show it to you, but it looks very similar to this. It just has a simple cam on the back, and it's not rotary, and it just holds the hook. Very, very, very similar jaws to this. And you can get a used Thompson Model A for like, you know, maybe even $10 or $15, maybe $20 on like eBay or Amazon or what have you. They generally always have the same kind of setup for your base, which is just a big old C-clamp. And if you're just starting out, like, the rotary's nice, but you're going to learn better skills, in my opinion, without it. Like, if you just have a standard vise like this, the only thing I don't like about this specific style vise is that it has this pivot point here, which is nice to get your angle right, but they never really hold as well as you'd like them to. Like, you know, you can always, I have this one cranked right down, but there's always, not sure if you can see that, but there's, see I'm moving it just a bit, there's always a little bit of play whenever you have an extra pivot point like that. So that's the other nice thing about getting, yeah, no, it is, like, yeah, Griffin's one of the, Griffin's actually, Griffin makes everything from a really, like you said, made out of cheese metal all the way up to a decent one. Griffin makes some really good entry-level vices though for the price. So I'm not going to knock Griffin, but they do make stuff that's like, you know, couldn't hold a hook to save its life because the steel it's made out of is just so soft. It just, you can't torque it down enough. This one's several notches up from the one you're talking about. I'm sure I know the exact vise you're talking about, because it is, you know, machined brass. It is all solid pieces. There's no plastic on it, so you can really torque this thing down pretty well. And it does have a rotary function, so you can have this locked down and still rotate the rotate it. It's not a full rotary in, you know, in practice. It's, you know, you can rotate it 5 or 6 times before it kind of tightens up on you. Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing, is like, if you have a vise and it holds your hook, that's its job. All the other stuff is fluff. It really doesn't matter unless you're tying a lot, and like that one little feature that you really, really like whether it's the way that the hook comes in and out, like through a cam system like this, or whether you really, really like the rotary because you're doing a lot of chenille or whatever. But I mean, if you look at like people that tie like every day, like Ruben or Turner or different people, a lot of times they're not using the rotary either, because it's just fat. You get in the habit, it's muscle memory, you get in the habit of just, you can feel the materials better, in my opinion, you know, through manual motion than you can necessarily through the rotary. It's a little different. There are a lot of techniques where the rotary will just hands down make it faster. And if that's where you're going and you try and do production tying and how quickly you can pump out flies, you're generally always going to be faster on a rotary than you're going to be on a non-rotary. And that's just the way it is. That's the benefit of it. But there's 2 different styles of bases. So you have the C-clamp, which is probably the most common because it's the most cost-effective and easy to ship, and it's nice and flat. And this whole thing can be put into a flat pack and shipped easily. The next most common is a base. I don't like those just because of the kind of style of tying I do at my desk. I like to have it clamped onto my desk. Yeah, thank you. But like this post would slide into the base, and then you'd have a big flat steel base that you would tie off of. And the benefit of that is you can move it around your desk, right? It's not locked in anywhere. So if you want to move it closer, you want to move it away from you, you want to have material on your base, it's really handy for that kind of thing. So again, personal preference, right? As long as your vise isn't falling over and you got a big enough, heavy enough base, it's all good. I mean, you can make a base out of a piece of granite and drill a hole in it, as long as it's a piece of steel, an old tire rotor, really doesn't matter, as long as it's heavy enough to hold your vise up. But yeah, this is kind of like your standard vise that most people are going to start with in a kit. This is a several notches up. I just don't have the standard one, but the difference between this one and the standard one is you wouldn't have the rotary feature, So this would all just be one piece of steel instead of several, and you'd have one locking ring instead of two, but basically it would look the same as this, and it would do the same function. When you pull the cam down, it tightens the jaws, and that holds your hook in place. And that's the way it works. But yeah, as long as it holds your hook, it's a good vise. That's really all there is to it. Anyone that tells you different is probably trying to sell you a vise. A specific type. But yeah, like for a Thompson Model A, I tied thousands of flies on a Thompson Model A. And those were common in kits, and people, hey, wee man, good to have you back. Okay, so let's get back to the fly. We've been yabbering about vices for a while now. Okay, so this one has a little bit of an overwing. Yeah, Fox and us were just yabbering about different vices and whatnot. Hey, no worries, Fox. Good to have you in, mate. I'm gonna need some more buck hair. That's not enough. I'll cut some more here in a second. Just gonna get rid of a few of these really long ones. We'll tie this bunch in here and then I'll grab another. Yeah, sorry to get on a rant there about the vices, but I know it's a very common question for all the new people, because that's the one thing that you have to buy that you probably don't have kind of laying around your house. But really, all it needs to do is hold your hook. It doesn't need to do anything else. All the other stuff is really just marketing, personal preference, and moving towards more advanced techniques that you're not going to be worried about. Yeah, and it's just like any other hobby, right? Like you can sink as much or as little money into it, and you can get into all the fancy, sought after products like a Law Vise or the one that he's got, which is the slightly off one. And all those vices are famous for a reason, because they're good vices. So don't get me wrong there. But yeah, that's a whole thing where people just, yeah, that new one that Brian had there. The only thing I would be worried about that, like, it looks like a decent vise, and you know he gave it a pretty good review for the price point. I just watched that video last night. The only thing I'd be concerned about is like it has a lot of plastic in it for a $30 vise. Like you can get a full metal vise for, you know, $30-$40 from like Griffin or Sunrise or many other offshore vise companies. And I'm not sure if they went with the plastic on it. I mean, it's hard to argue with the Law Vise, right? It's famous for a reason, because it's well made. And that's my thing. It's like, and it's the whole thing. Like, you're only spending $30, so what are you expecting for $30, right? But I just see it as it's a $30 vise. And it looked to me like, just looking at it, obviously I didn't have it in my hands or anything, but just going over what Brian was saying, is it just seems to have a lot of plastic in it for a $30 vise. Like, I can't see that plastic holding up over time. I could be wrong. Some plastics are actually really well made, you know, and if they use the right type of plastic, you know, it might last quite a while. But especially if you're using the rotary function, like the whole barrel of that thing, where it's going to be rotating inside, is plastic. It looks like it was anyway. So if that's the case, you know, that might be a huge wear point. I'm going to try and stack this up a bit, just by hand here, so just give me a minute. Hey Matt, good to have you in, mate. But yeah, I mean, like, overall for the price point, I was really surprised at how well the vise looked. So don't get me wrong, I'm just saying, for a $30 vise with that much plastic, it's like, I might want to spend another $5 or $10 and get something made of metal, you know, that's non-rotary. Like, I might give up that rotary function just to have something that's a little bit more robust. But again, I'd have to actually look at it. But it seemed like a really cool option for that many bones on the table, right? That's really what we're kind of getting down to, is, you know, how good it is for that money. Yeah, but are they the Allen keys that are made from like Chinesium that's as soft as cheddar, you know? Don't mind me, I have to hand stack this because it's so greasy. And you gotta remember, a lot of Regal stuff is repackaged too by the fly shops, so a lot of them could be adding or taking away extra things like Allen keys and that too. That's very, very possible. In the end of the day, I mean, like, there's no right or wrong on any of those choices, right? You're just getting what you're paid for, and it really boils down to it. And if someone's only going to tie once a week, I mean, it might take them 5 years to wear out a plastic vise like that. I mean, if you're tying as much as I am, I wouldn't see that. I mean, I'd be surprised if I didn't wear that thing out in 6 months, you know? I could be wrong, but yeah, and like a lot of people that sell these things, they're trying to make sure that you're happy, right? The only reason anyone walks into a fly shop is to be happy. Nobody walks in there because their life depends on it, right? We're all there because we're there for an enjoyment. And if he knows, like, the last couple Renzettis that he sold, the client came back and like, hey, I couldn't even adjust this, I didn't have a key for it. You know, he could easily just order up a whole box of Allen keys online and just have those handy, so that wasn't a problem for him again in the future, right? Hard to know. Hard to know. And again, that's the other thing too, is like the more of those little add-ons that you have, the less values in the actual vise. Like I've gotten some, Indian made vices. And like I said, I tied on them for years, so I'm not throwing any shade that direction, but I've had some Indian vices that came with like 5 or 6 different vice tips, and at first I was like, oh, that's cool, you get all these options, and it's like, well, if it has all these extra vice tips, I'm losing that value in the actual metallurgy and everything else, and that in the vise that I'm using, and I'm probably never going to use half of those tips, right? Or if they give you all these extra little add-ons and stuff like that, all costs money. So if you're buying just the vise and that's all you get is just the vise, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Alright. I think we're good there. I was going to keep going and adding more, but I think that actually looks pretty decent. So I'm just going to wrap into these butt ends. And what we're going to end up doing is tying a this one has actually a red soft hackle. So 1 second, I gotta get a red hen hackle out of here. I didn't have that handy. Where's my red? There we go. So we're gonna use a red cock on the rock. Been using this one a fair bit lately. And hopefully this one has some feathers big enough for what we need to do, because it's a pretty small little cape, but I think we can manage with some of the ones on the top there. You can use red spay hackle. I got some of that too, but I think this will work for us. Oh, as the loose feathers go everywhere. Come on, buddy, get back in there. Okay, so what we're looking for, and again, this is a hen hackle, or hen cape. Our spay feathers are going to be more along the side of the cape here. If I can find one big enough. There's probably 1 or 2 up top here. Yeah, it looks like those might work. Give me a moment to dig in here. Only really need 1 to work. There we go. Well, and I managed to get 3 out of the deal. Okay, so what we're looking for, this may not be big enough. Are we big enough? Ooh, just barely. Okay, yeah, you'll work though. So what we're looking for is we're looking for the hackle to be about a hook or a gap height and a quarter. So easy way to measure that is just to hold your racus underneath the hook, and you can see it's coming down past the barb. Not quite a gap height and a quarter, but a gap height and a bit. So we'll call it good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be tying this one in backwards. So we're going to be grabbing the front here. You grab the tip of the feather, pulling it back. This whole front section is going to be too small anyway, so we're just going to trim that out. You can also use the red rooster spay hackles on this too, if you have a saddle or a cape. You want this, if you are using spay hackles, but you want to get this, you can see how they're not sticking together and they're loose and they're have a lot of movement to it. That's what you're looking for. The ones that are really going to make this fly are going to be from here down. Is what we're really looking for. These top ones are just going to add a little bulk, basically. Um, Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, this is probably a good point for me to switch over to that. Burnt orange thread. So let's do that. 1 second, I need my bigger half-inch tool. I could have switched over to that at any point here, and I probably should have earlier, but again, we're just using the white mainly to do the body. And you could stay with white the whole time if you really wanted to. Where's half-inch? There we go. But that burnt orange just gives it a real nice head with the... I love the color that it turns after you get a little bit of head cement on it. It turns into this nice kind of pumpkin dark orange. I also see a lot of people tying these with orange hackle too. I like the contrast with the red that we're going to get into here in a second. So I'm not trying to build up any bulk really, I'm just trying to get this thread up in a base all the way up. There we go. So we got a clean spot to wrap our hackle. A little bit of a dip going on right here. I'm going to try and fill in after. And I want to crush that. There we go. Okay, so we have a little bit of a dip there. I'm going to try and fill in after. I don't think it's going to affect our hackle any, but we'll see when we get there if it does or not. I'm just going to clip that. I like to cut them in like a little triangle point here, but that's a little bit on the thick side, so I'm just going to reduce that a little bit. That'll stop it from pulling out, gives it a nice base to bind into. Adds a little bit of friction. We'll just get right back there. We want to stop our thread right where we're going to tie it off, which is kind of right at the lump of the head there. I have to use my slightly bigger hackle pliers here. This should give us a really nice, lively wet fly hackle. Okay, 1 second. Let's see if this will behave and go into a more of a V shape for us. We're not losing as many hackles being tied in. A lot of times you'll have to keep persuading it as you're wrapping it along. Palmering it, I guess, for lack of a better. That's working out pretty well. I'm happy with that. And just kind of touching turns with a little bit more space all the way along. Our main wraps are going to be these last couple of these nice floofy guys here. There we are. We should end up right... I was hoping to end up on my side of the hook, but we'll just spin that up. There we go. There's a legitimate use for a rotary right there. Yeah, I got the racus kind of tied in, but she's thick and she's bent, so yeah, do as I say, not as I do. Hmm. But that's what we want. We want that nice kind of flowy, poofy hackle. You can get that, like I said, you can either get that from the hen saddles. If you get some of the bigger feathers up top, the bottom ones won't work for you. They're just too small and too stiff. But those, almost in the chickaboo area of the saddles, or cape, in that case that's a cape. For saddles, it's going to be the same thing around the sides. You're going to get your spay hackles. And those are going to have that nice webby. I like these ones to have a nice kind of bulbous football head, so they can help move the water. In my mind, anyway, it helps to direct the water into the hackle and causes that pulsation that drives the fish nuts and kind of ticks them off a bit. Yeah, that's called a fall favorite. Very similar to the first one, just slightly different hackle, no tail. Just thrown on 3 half hitches because that first one didn't really sit as well as I would have liked it to, but here we are. She's a beauty though. That's a nice colorful fly. It's like tangerine juice. There we go. And since we got so many newer tires in the stream this morning, a really good tip for you to get in a habit into when you're releasing your flies. Really simple tip, but really handy. Put your thumb or your finger over top of the end of your bobbin when you're cutting your thread off. So I'm hanging onto my bobbin, fingers over top, putting pressure on the thread so the thread is loose. And then when I cut my thread, or however you're going to free it, don't matter, it doesn't go spring and all that tension leaves the thread. So now if I let go, it's not going to unravel and, jump back in. Can't tell you when I started tying how often I had to redo my thread. Yeah, I didn't watch it, but I seen the thumbnail for it, and I was gonna watch it this morning, but I ended up watching Brian's thing because Brian hadn't had a video out in a good while. Yeah, it's a simple tip too, right? Like it helps everyone. It works so well, and it's like if you do it fairly often, you don't even think about it anymore, right? But I can't tell you how many times when I was a new tire that I cut the thread off and it would go spring and just like shoot back through, and it would be like ugh, and I'd have to rethread my. I got a lot of practice rethreading bobbins, but I mean, who likes rethreading their bobbin if they don't have to? So I'll throw some head cement on here. Yeah, I'm gonna watch that one later. Yeah, me too. Yep, I got a soft spot, if that wasn't obvious already, because most of my content's classics. I got a soft spot for the classics. Not that I don't like tying modern flies, it's just, like you said, there's just something about a classic pattern, even if it has a lot of flaws, and even if it's not perfect, and even if you could make some changes to it to make it better. There's just something about it that makes my heart go yee. So we're gonna let that soak in. You can see the color changing on the head there, and what that's doing is it's actually starting to melt the wax in the classic wax thread, and it's gonna make it a bit darker. And see how it gets to like that, in my opinion, it's just like that perfect transition into the red and the orange. Like it's just love it. Just perfect. Couldn't be better. So I could get the same effect just by using a reddish brown Sharpie marker or a red and brown Sharpie marker if I didn't have the right color with the white thread. But this rusty brown, yeah, no, Davy's really good. I mean, I take some pride in my quill wings. Yeah, he's awesome too. Yeah, of course. If you like interesting fly tying that goes away from the classics, like just to go on the other side of the coin, because Davey does a lot of classic stuff. But if you want to get into some new tying stuff, look up, oh, what's his name? His book's A Feather Mechanic. Featherbender's awesome. Like him too. Watch his stuff. He's super skilled, obviously. Oh my gosh, why can't I remember his name now? Venderspay. Gordon. Look up his stuff. He's really talented in the way his thought process goes for like building a fly, and like the materials and how they work is just infectious. Like, and his attitude is so cool. And he's from South Africa too. Like we were talking about earlier. I don't know if he's still in South Africa or not, but that's where he was from. Like I was saying, there's lots of like super skilled fly tyers in South Africa. But he'd be one of them, Gordon Vanderspay. And he's got two books out, The Feather Mechanic and The Feather Mechanic Continued, or something along those lines, or number 2, or something like that. I don't have his second book, and I don't have his first book. It would be nice to have them. I just haven't found them locally, so. But he's a really cool guy. I really enjoy his quirky, weird attitude. And just his, yeah, and he's got a really, he's in a lot of my Facebook groups too, like the fly tying Facebook groups. He actually has one that he, I guess, runs, for lack of a better way to say it. But he's really good at helping new tyers, and just the way he thinks about fly tying is kind of completely off the wall compared to a lot of people. So he might mesh up better than other people, right? Like every person learns differently, so. I kind of like this one. Maybe we'll tie another one of those. I'm just gonna get that one. Sorry, I'm just fighting with these guys stuck in the bottom of the bag. Yeah. And he will give you a new perspective. Let me tell you. He's got a few videos out there. Not to throw shade at Craft or anything, but he's got a video. I think it's called The Craft, but I think The Craft is actually the guy who did the documentary. So not The Craft as in The Craft the Fly Tyer. That's on here live as well. But the video is called The Craft, or the videographer, I think, is called The Craft, because I don't think Gordon definitely didn't film it. It was someone else, because it wasn't Gordon's style. But it's a really well done documentary on several documentaries on different fly tyers and their perspectives and things. And I think it's just called The Craft. So not The Craft, the online live fly tyer, who pops in here quite frequently, but I think it's just the videographer called it The Craft. But if you can find that series of videos, it goes through a number of kind of more fringe, quirky different tires, and it's just a really interesting watch and really, really well done videography. Like the guy who put it together is very skilled behind a camera and audio and everything else. Like he did a wonderful job putting it together. So you can find those on YouTube. That's a good watch. It's an easy couple hours to burn on on a Saturday or something. Highly recommend it. But yeah, I think like one of his main videos on that series is Gordon sitting there like with a fly like in his mouth, like pretending to eat it. So if you see that thumbnail, you'll be in the right spot. But yeah, let's do up one more of these guys, just because I really like that. That's pretty. I do my little spin and spiel here just because the head's starting to dry on it. I probably should have been spinning it while it's drying so it doesn't get lumpy. It looks like it did get a little lumpy. But that's okay. Not the end of the world. There we have the Vise, a fall favorite. This is tied on a size 4. It can be tied for anywhere from an 8 all the way through to a 2. 2s and 4s are kind of the most common for this one. It is a very simple pattern for a good searching pattern for steelhead. It was tied. This one was actually originally tied in California in the 1930s from Chris Polks. And it starts off with a simple flat tinsel body, orange bucktail for the wing, and a red spay hackle, or in this case a croc on the rock hen hackle, round as a soft hackle, and a red brown rust head with uni thread with a nice lacquer finish to it. Really cool little searching pattern. In the smaller sizes, 8, 10s, this works really well for brook trout as well, but it was standardly tied for steelhead and salmon. Awesome little pattern. Yeah, red and orange, man. Hey, cavefish. Actually starting to get into the salmon and steelhead streamers for once for you. So this one's I don't know if you heard my spiel there, but this is a fall favorite. A really standard kind of searching pattern up here. Thank you, appreciate that. Yeah, good to have you in, cavefish. It's been a bit. We need to do a collab tie-in stream at some point here. I want to try that whole collaboration feature out at some point when I'm set up for it. Yeah, let's get another one of those done up here quick. Yeah, always good to have some more of the crew in here. There's the one we did before that. Comet. I'm sure you've heard of Comets before. They're really popular, you know, down Seattle area where you're from too. So there's Comet, the orange one before it, and then that's the fall favorite. Yeah, the next couple weeks here I'm going to be doing just straight salmon steelhead streamer flies. I know it's kind of weird seasonal wise, but I like tying my salmon and all the big puffy stuff in the winter when I can't really do a lot of other fishing. I don't know why, but that's just the way I go. So we're gonna do the same thing, number 4 hook again. Same fly. I'm gonna do a lot less talking and a lot less explaining, and we'll just tie this one up. Yeah, that's okay. It's close enough. It's a little bit off, but that's better. There we go. But yeah, K-Fish ties on a, because we're talking about vices, he ties on a Renzetti. David ties on a Renzetti. Okay, no worries, mate. Well, we'll be here when you get back. Man, I'd love to hit up some fishing in Thailand, though. They got all sorts of really cool fish there. and just like totally different fishing styles and stuff. Hopefully you can get some video and do some fishing while you're down there. I'm not sure how they, I don't think the laws are that crazy about local or non-locals, you know, getting licenses and fishing there. I could be wrong though, I don't know. There you go. Yeah, I didn't do much this year. The fisheries haven't been super strong, so sometimes I need a break. Yeah, well, I'm here daily, mate, so I generally have shorts out daily and a little live stream every day. You know, barring being sick or some other family thing coming up or whatever. But we're generally here early morning. Hey, fishing with Greg. Good to have you in, mate. Yeah, you're welcome to hang out with us. We always like new people. Hey, K-Fish, if you don't mind me asking, is that where your girl's from? I'm assuming? You going back to visit family, or? I imagine you get some like crazy fish charter experiences out in Thailand too. Yeah, welcome in, Greg. Always good to have new people. So we're gonna tie in our tinsel body. There we go. This tinsel's got kind of a big kink in the bottom end here, but I don't know if we're gonna get that far down. Yoshi. Here, Yoshi, let me give you some stars to jump for. There you go, buddy. Fill your boots, Yoshi. Good, I'm glad. Do you tie on YouTube too, mate? If you got a tying channel, I'll mod you up here. I don't expect much from my mods. We're all just hanging out. I don't have problems with the trolls really, so. There you go. Good job, Yoshi. There you go, Greg. You're a moderator now. Alright guys, lost my chat there for a second. Let's fix that. There we go. Good. Well, there you go. Modded you up. If I see you around again, Cerebus, I'll mod you up too. All good, mate. Yeah, but like I said, we're here like every morning. I do the morning tying rotation, and K-Fish and other people do the evenings. I thoroughly enjoy tying in the evenings, but I can be a lot more consistent in the mornings, just enjoying my coffee and tea and hanging out with everyone. That's kind of the idea. Oh, yeah, let's throw a half hitch on that before we go too far. Yeah, enjoy your lunch, eh? We have such an awesome community in the YouTube bait making community, whether it's fly tying or jig making or whatever. It's just such a great community. Pacific Standard Time. I'm interior British Columbia, right smack in the middle. Actually, hold on. I'm gonna have to put a dab of head cement. I forgot that part. Nope. And then we get the afternooners like Wee Man and Maddie that join us, even though it's like dinner time over there. I get a lot of people, like I was saying, from India and Russia and Ukraine area, which is really cool. I like all the global fly tying is a cool thing. Oh, we got a good bit of tires in the Oregon area actually. I don't think we have any in today, but we normally do. That hook point's just... Oh, I missed one there. Doing so good until I got scared of that hook point. Whew! You hear that like sharp tink as you touch the hook point. There you go. My brain's ugh. I slipped there, but we're just gonna keep it. There we go. That's a flat tinsel body I'm proud of. Happy with that. A little bit wonky on the tail end, but definitely nothing to be worried about. Get this tied in before I lose tension on it. Come on, buddy, stay still. Yeah, a lot of people really struggle with the flat tinsel. Yeah, I'm not too worried. I can just take my half hitch tool and varnish it down a little bit. But one or two little nicks like that I'm not gonna fuss about. This is a really coarse tinsel too. As you can tell, it likes to kink. It's very thick. So it makes a durable body once you get it wrapped, but I mean the whole getting it wrapped point is the other thing. I'm wondering if I should varnish this or just leave it be. Looking at it now, it's actually not that raised as much as what it looked like. It was just catching the light. Yeah, no, I'm happy with that. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that at all. Okay, so let's get some... If I can get some of this bucktail to behave itself. I really need to clean this bucktail. Was it you, Yoshi, that said that you thought it was a detergent that it might be? Because it's really sticky and greasy. and it's brand new pack. But it's like if it was greasy, it wouldn't have taken the dye at all, so I'm not sure why it's acting like it is acting. It's very hard to find. I got some right here, actually. Flies were tying a couple days ago. I was using it, the muddler minnows. There's some real gold tin from about the 1910, 1920s. Oh, this one's actually probably more like 1930s. This one here is from 1910. This is actual gold, like uni-French. But as you can tell, I'm running low. And you're right, it's extremely hard to find unless you want to pay good money for it. And even if you do find it, you're probably paying good money for it. So I save it for very special flies. The fly that we tied with that actually went to, it's going to be mailed out today. And I'm going to cover up his, I'll cover up his thing, but I'm mailing this out today to Valhalla, which has our two classic muddler minnows in it that has the original old school French tinsel in it. But yeah, it's a love and hate thing to work with for sure, because it's like I love working with like the real classic materials, like the old materials like that, but if you're not careful with it, man, it'll cut your thread so fast, or your fingers. It's sharp, so you got to be real mindful when you're wrapping it. It's not like the plastic mylar at all. You can buy reproductions. There's yeah, I think he's gonna really enjoy it, and I'm glad Luca actually won the draw on it, and then he was, honorable enough to step back and give it to Valhalla, so that was nice of him. Look how long this, like, I know you can't even see it, but it's like, look at that. Freaking bucktails, like, so long. And it feels wasteful when I have to clip off a chunk this size. I mean, I guess I could kind of save it for spinning heads or something, but nah. That's part of tying these kind of flies, though. You have to just use a lot of materials for steelhead flies. You end up just using a lot of stuff. It's not like tying nymphs where I can use 90% of everything. Okay, so we're just gonna bind that in here. Yeah, it's a long. I was surprised how long the fibers were in that tail, actually. That's one of the reasons I grabbed it, because it looked like it had nice, full, come on, brain, what are we doing here? We're doing a half hitch and then switching thread. And then we'll get that red tied in. Hey, since here, tell you what, mate, I'll throw you a moderator too. You seem like a really cool dude, even though it's the first time you've been in here. There you go, all modded up. That way, if you want to connect with any of the other regulars in here, it's easier for you to jump on there and connect with their channels. We're all about supporting each other, right? It's not like, I'm assuming it's more of a personal thing, because I haven't seen Brian say anything, but since we got a lot of the regulars in the channels, anyone know what, and I don't need any details or anything, but I noticed Brian hasn't posted anything in a good while, and I heard he wasn't doing well. Had some medical issues. Anyone know what's going on with that? And if it's personal stuff and you can't say anything, just shoot me an email. If you don't want it on stream, that's fine. I'm assuming if he wanted people to know, he would have posted about it, but I don't know what it's about. So I just heard he wasn't doing so well, and he hasn't really posted a stream in like 2 months now. So hopefully he's doing okay. I haven't seen him floating around, or I would ask him myself. But if anyone knows what's up, let me know. Just more concerned about the dude's health and making sure he's okay. That's why I jumped on his Vise review video this morning, see if he was doing okay. Yeah, I watched it. Yeah, the Vise review. But I know I've heard through the grapevine that Ties flies Brian Smith. I just know he hasn't posted. He posted one video today, but he hadn't posted for like almost 2 months, which is not like him. And I heard he had some. Oh, he did? Oh, okay. Maybe that's not the one I'm thinking of then. So he was live today? Okay, good. Maybe he's gotten over whatever it was then. Like I said, I'm not trying to pry into his business. I just hopefully he's doing okay, you know. Okay, so I'm just gonna strip off some of the fluffier stuff. Okay. Well, like I said, hopefully he's doing okay. I haven't heard anything specific, and hopefully he's so I know if your medical condition's stopping you from tying, it's probably something serious. But hopefully he's doing okay. If I run into Dusted, I'll ask Dusted. He probably knows, I'm sure. So I'm just gonna pull that back on the hackle here, and then make a little V cut. You can see a little triangle there, and that'll be our tie-in point. I like to tie it in on my side here, but it really isn't gonna matter. Then we'll bury that down. Leave our thread right at our tie-off point, and we'll get to some wrapping. Yeah, that's what I mean. I just, I hopefully everything's okay for him. I can just, any kind of medical condition I can think of that's going to cause him not to be able to tie every morning is not a good medical condition. So hopefully him and his family are doing okay, and that's really all I'm getting at. I don't want to drag on. If anyone doesn't know anything, that's probably a reason for it. So we'll leave it at that and just send him my best. Oh, what's up, K-Fish? Like, why are you not a mod? Dude, I swear I've modded you like 6 times. What's going on with that? There you go. Yeah, seriously, I swear I've had K-Fish modded like half a dozen times in here. I think he just keeps refusing my mods. That's all it is. It's got to be something he's doing, not me. Right? Totally. Hey, shark! Shark's in the house. Dude, hopefully the weather gets better for you. Why does YouTube take away mods? Maybe YouTube just knows that he's like, kind of a sketchy dude, and it's probably something like that. Yeah, there's been several people that are just like, I have to remod over and over again. Matt's asking a question. Can I ask a question? Yeah, of course. Go ahead, mate. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I saw that there, and then I got distracted with K-fish. Because K-fish is super distracting. Yeah, no, I know. Just sucks when you want to get out and do something and the weather's holding you back, right? Yeah, go away, Matt, and shoot, man. We're all here to hang out, and if you have any comments, questions, accusations, throw them our way. Just gonna back my pliers up a hair here so I get a little more room. Nice, that landed like smack on perfect. Happy with that one. Yeah, shoot, mate, you got a question, feel free. Oh, don't mind my cats throwing up a hairball. There it goes. Yeah, it seemed like really impressive for a $30 vise. I'm not gonna lie. My only concern is like it has a lot of plastic on it. But someone would have to try it and actually see if that made any difference or not. Plastics have come a long way, even though I prefer metal. But then again, I've had metal fail on me as well, so just gonna. Oh sure, let me finish this here and I'll show you. It's easier to show you than tell you, to be honest with you. So just give me a few seconds here. We'll finish this fly up and then we'll go over that. There's a few different ways you can do it, so we'll go over a couple of the more common ways. Okay. Okay, so we got that all in. Yeah, that's a great question. I try to go over as much as I can when I'm tying up the flies. But after you've been doing it for a long time, you forget the more common things that you. I try to remind myself often the struggles I had, um, the struggles I had when I was learning. Right, I try to always remind myself of what those were. But you do forget as you know overcome all those obstacles, right? But yeah, feel free. Like that's exactly what we're here for, is to help everyone. There's no finish line for fly tying, right? So it's like any other art form or hobby. We're all at different points in the journey, and there's no I win. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, accusations, throw them our way. We're more than happy to give you a hand with any of it. And if I don't know, I'll find someone who does, or I'll figure it out. Because I don't know everything for sure, and there's lots of people out there that are more knowledgeable than me. Okay, she's a booty. She's a booty. I'm happy with that one. Just gonna fluff up these feathers a bit before I put the head cement on, because I don't want to get any head cement in the fur. There we go. Ha! Yeah, happy with that. That's good. That turned out well. Yeah, so there's a number of different ways that you can start your thread. We'll go over, a good half dozen or so. And they each have like their benefits and downsides, and some of them really don't have a benefit and downside, just personal preference. I'll go over how I start my hook, probably 90% of the time. Yeah, it does. I'm happy with that. It probably should be just a hair longer, to be honest. Like it should be coming down just past the point there a little bit, but that's the biggest feather I got on that cape, so that's gonna do. And I don't think the fish is gonna be like, meh. No, it's not. It's substandard. Alright, we're gonna throw a little bit of head cement on there. I'm just gonna give this just a second here to set up. But you can see how that color changed. Hopefully you noticed. Here, let me get the thread. But what that'll do is the head cement, the acetone of the head cement will actually eat away at the wax in the thread because this is a wax thread. So there's the original orange that it was tied with, and you can see how it slowly changed into more like a red tone as it's eating the wax away. It has a chemical reaction with it. And you can see how much lighter the actual thread is. And it just has this beautiful transition into that orangey red that just makes this whole fly. I don't know. I think it's money. I just really like that color change with the head cement. Oh, this one up here, he's just proud. He's just standing up. He's living his best hackle life, you know. He's putting his foot down. He's taking a stand. Yeah, I tie a lot with classic wax. I mean, I have GSPs and that. That's what I grew up tying with. It's a bucktail and it's out of control. I was fighting this. There we go. Yeah, happy with that though. Alright, so I'm going to do my little spin and spiel and then we'll get to Matt's question here and do some thread tying. So just give me a second here. There we have a fall favorite in the vise. This is tied on a size 4 hook. It has a flat silver tinsel body wrapped all the way up to the head and then tied in with a orange bucktail as the overwing and a red cock in the rock soft hackle tied in with some what are we doing here, burnt orange uni thread wax, classic waxed, and size 6. Wonderful little searching pattern. This is excellent for steelhead, brook trout. If you're tying it down on like the 8s and the 10 range, it can be tied anywhere from an 8 all the way up to a 2. This one's a 4. And 4 to 2s are probably the most common sizes, but this does work really well in the smaller sizes as well for brook trouts and creeks and that sort of thing. Excellent little salmon fly pattern and steelhead. Add a couple to your box, fun little tie. Did Robert pop back in? There we go. Mediocre. There you go. Yeah, I mean there's a few in there that's kind of doing its own thing, but what are you gonna do? I'm happy with him though. So we can go, we'll get this. Well, I'm just gonna move these guys over so we get some room here. Go sit next to this mosquito. There we go. Yeah, I'm hoping to actually have my shop set up pretty soon this year, actually. I want to set up a Spotify and start actually filling up a shop. I got gobs, too many flies loading up here, so. Be fun to have a little motivation to get the business going that way. But that's not what we're here for. We're not here to sell you guys stuff. This is a slightly smaller hook, but we're just going to use this for time purposes or for demonstration. I'm going to stick with that bright orange thread. Hopefully you'll be able to see it a little better. I'm not sure if that would be better than the white, but I think it'll maybe show up better. Who knows? Okay, so there's a few ways to start your thread. None of them are wrong, none of them are right. They all have their ups and downsides, and we'll go over that. The most common way to start your thread is to grab the tag end. So this is called tag end. This is a nice loose bit. You should hold your bobbin in your hand so that your hand can, in essence, crush it or add tension to your bobbin. Okay. You can also add tension to the bobbin up top here, to these, to the two bobbin legs. And if you're adding tension here, that puts tension on the spool, which stops it from spinning out as bad. Okay, that part's important because you're going to be adding a fair bit of tension to tie the thread on. If you're really loose and it's just continually coming out, you're not going to get a good tie-in point. So the main thing is you're going to grab your tag end, you're going to come across at about a 45-degree angle, and the angle's somewhat important because if you're going 90 degrees like this, it's going to be harder for you won't catch your tag end and it'll just pull loose. So if you go 45 degrees, as it's spinning all over the place on me, if you go 45 degrees, get 2 wraps in and then a wrap back on itself, you don't need much and it'll hold itself in. I only had 2 wraps there. So again, roughly about a 45, bring it down, do a couple wraps like that, and then you're going to do the same wraps, but you're going to go back over the wraps you just did. And you only really need 2 or 3 wraps, and then it should be strong enough to actually break the thread without having the thread come off. I mean, that's all you really need. Now you can see when I'm doing my thread base, that's a little different. That's more that's not to hold the thread in, although it looks like that's probably what's going on. That's to actually give the materials something to bite in on. Now if you're doing a do I have any GSP? Do I have any GSP out here? I don't think I do. No worries. If you're doing GSP thread, you're going to need to do more wraps because it doesn't have wax. This is a wax thread, so it'll stick to itself. So I can literally get over top of my thread in just a couple wraps like that. And of course, when I go to demonstrate it, it's not going to work. I can just do a couple wraps and it'll be tight enough that I can break my thread and not have it come off. If you're doing GSP thread, which is a gel spun thread, which is a flat thread like a ribbon, it's a lot stronger, but you're going to need to do more wraps because it's not going to bite in on itself. One tip that I like to give new tires too is once you start your thread in, so you got that kind of 45-degree angle, and what that's going to do is that's going to allow you to, I picked like the most slipperiest angled hook to do this demonstration on, but that's fine. If you have the an angle like this, once you have it bitten in and you're wrapping on top of itself, and that does take some practice. I mean, I know I make it look really super simple there. Yeah, I'm live. Hey, Jack Pepper, good to have you back in. Once you have a little bit of it tagged in like that, again, you only need a handful of wraps. You don't need to go hog wild at it. But a lot of new tires will sit here and just like until you end up with like a lump, and that can cause you some problems later on. So it's not a good habit to get into. It's not really going to hurt anything other than having your materials kind of bulge out in one spot or another. But let's start over. So we got our thread tied in. Now generally after you tie your thread in, the next thing you're going to do is make a thread base. And the thread base has a lot of useful attributes for the fly. A lot of new tires will do this, and they'll lay their thread along the hook, and they'll sit there and they'll tie over, and they'll do that, and they'll just kind of go along. And it's not even. You'll have a lot of bumps and loose spots and everything like that, and it's not tied in well, because if I grab the tag end, I can pull it all the way back, see? So it's not doing anything as far as securing the thread in whatsoever. So now that I've tightened it though, this is tight enough now that we can actually just break the thread off. Okay, so what you want to do for both securing the thread and creating a thread base is you want to hold the thread at about a 45-degree angle, the opposite direction from when you're tying it in. So start down here, get 2 or 3 wraps in, wrap back on the wraps you just made. Okay, and then you want to switch to a 45 degree going up. You want to keep this fairly taut because this is going to act like a little slide. And as you're wrapping back this way, your thread wraps, even if you're way off, because when you're new, you're going to be way off. And you can see these are all wrapping back down here because they're hitting that slide and they're going right back almost perfectly in place every time. And you can get going, you know, faster. This isn't a race or anything. You don't have to worry about how fast you're tying. But this will prevent you from doing that first mistake that we were showing. So now that I'm at the base, and this hook here, it's between the hook and the barb, but generally speaking it would be at the barb, and you can tell that just by letting your bobbin hang there and where that thread is. Once you're at the base, you want to do 3 to 4 wraps back. So you can see I'm a little bit farther back now. I've got 3 or 4 wraps there. What that'll do is that'll bind in this tail piece. And now when I go to pull on it, it'll break off and it won't pull all the way to the front. Okay. Just gonna undo this and we'll do the other one. So the other way to do it, which is not the way I generally do it, but again, there's no right or wrong way to do this. I'll demonstrate a few other ways that I don't generally do, but a lot of other tires do. And they all have their ups and downs. So for me, that gives me a consistent fly. The reason I tie it in that way is it gives me a consistent starting point and it gives me a consistent thread wrap on the body. Every time my thread wrap and my starting point are going to be the same. So the benefit of tying in here like this as a new tire and not tying in here, a lot of new tires will start right here by their head. That's easier. Why is that easier? Because you can rest your thread right at the edge of your head here, and it's not going to go anywhere, right? So it makes a nice stable. It makes a nice stable spot for new. Yeah, it makes a nice stable spot for new tires, and a lot of new tires will start right here because it's easy and it works, and you're tying the thread this way and back this way, which is the opposite of what I just showed you, where I was tying this way and then back this way. The downside of this is what causes a lot of new tires to crowd the head. And crowding the head is just, it's a never-ending battle when you're starting to tie. So if you start off here and you create your thread tie in here, right? You've already committed yourself to filling that spot up. And if you haven't already filled it up, because when you're new, you're going to be like, you're going to put a huge chunk of thread there, right? You already got 20 or something wraps on there. So instead of that, although that has its place in some patterns, don't get me wrong. It's not, again, there's no right or wrong way to do this. There's only differences. Hey, good to have you in Trudge. I'm glad that helps you out, man. That's what we're here for. So hopefully Maddie's still in the stream here and actually watching this, but hopefully this helps everyone. Yep. So hopefully Matt's still in here watching this, but it's, hopefully benefits everyone. So don't start your thread here. Start your thread back. A good point of reference for every fly is just the width of your bobbin needle or your bodkin needle. Okay? If you leave at least that much, if not 2 of these, you will not crowd your head because you have enough room there for your materials to slip one way or the other. Okay, so we're going to always start our thread at least a bodkin width, if not 2, back here. Okay, we don't need to start our thread. We don't need to start our thread over here. Okay, this should be generally always blank, depending on the type of fly you're tying. There's a few patterns where you do need to start your thread there, but few. It's the exception to the rule. Okay, start our thread there. So you want to leave that empty space, okay? Because all of your main, like if you're tying, I'm just going to grab this orange feather because it's bright and you can see it easy. If you're tying something in, yeah, exactly, with all the beauty that a pit bull has. But if you're tying in a feather here, you're not tying it in over here, you're tying it in here. So as you build this up, the thickest part in your fly is going to be where you're binding all your materials in, which is always going to be and should be away from your head, because as you're binding it in, it's going to either flare on either side, which is what you want it to do. But remember, it's flaring on both sides because your tension's in the middle. So if it's flaring out here and you're already over here, it's already past the point where you can tie. You can't bind that down. And that's how you end up with your thread looping over your eyeball. Because you can't bind something that's already hanging over your thread. Or hanging over your head. Or your eye. Sorry, out of tea. Nimby's having talking problems again. That's how you tell he's been talking too much. Okay, sorry. So, that's the eye, where you want to start. Now, if you're tying nymphs, yeah, if you're tying nymphs and things where you're tying in the tail first, then you want to do the same thing, but you start over here. Because a lot of times with nymphs, you're going to be dubbing and doing things where you want to have a smooth shank. So you're going to tie this in, and you want to start tying it in at the point of the hook. You see there? We're just hanging right at the point. Be careful of the point. That will cause you no end of problems. And we'll... Oh, you got a new rod, Yoshi? That's so cool. Hopefully you do a video. I'll check that out. I'd like to see that. Sorry, got distracted there. Yoshi's having fun with stuff. So anyway, we want to tie in our thread at the base here. And we want to tie it in. This hook isn't going to let me do exactly what I want to because it's got a lot of bend here. But normally you'd tie it in from the point to the barb. Now we can see we're at the barb. This specific hook has a good bit of bend in this area, but normally you'd still be flat right there. Okay, that's tying in at the tail. Let's go back to tying in. You too. Enjoy your math class, mate. Crunch some numbers. Alright, I'm really kind of beating up this thread here. But we'll keep going at it. Okay, so another way to tie this in. One thing that a lot of people, especially if you're using more expensive thread, or you're just mindful of waste, because honestly, you can go through a lot of thread if you're tying hundreds of flies. So one other way to do it is to bind your thread down with your finger. So just like this. So I'm just binding down just the tip. So you just the tip, mind you, of the thread. Like that. Ugh, come on now. Behave yourself. This is one of the reasons I don't use this method, but there we go. Alright, so I'm going to start this, and I'm going to just get a few wraps, and then I'm going to back it up. And I'm only backing it up just one wrap. And now I can actually go over top of the tag end, and I can tighten it just slightly. And then I can get rid of this tag end, and I don't have to worry about cutting it off. Yeah, that would be cool, Yoshi. I'd like to see that, for sure. But this is another method here. You can use this method if you don't want to cut your thread off. If you're using GSP, it can really wear out your scissors quite quickly. So a lot of people that tie GSP use this method to tie in there. I hope so. I will try anyway. Yeah, exactly. So there's no waste. You're not cutting your thread. Because if you're using GSP, like honestly, gel spun the thread will dull up your scissors like no one's business. So a lot of people for GSP will just use a cheap X-Acto knife or a razor blade to cut their threads, because it'll take the edge off of your blade right quick. So that's a good way to do it with no waste, no cutting. And it works better with the GSP because it's a flat thread and it will slip. So even if you're tying it like, I'm gonna exaggerate. Okay, I'm gonna have to cut this off. It's getting a little too wild and beat up from being tied so many times. Yeah, sage rods are they're just nice rods. They're just well done. Alright, so I'm going to get a few wraps here. I'm really exaggerating. I'm not using GSP, so this method does work a lot better with GSP. But if you have like a big tag end like that, and you got just a couple wraps, if I can do this with the waxed, you should be able to, pull it in. Alright, let's try that again. Again, this is a method for GSP, which is slippy and not waxed like this is waxed. If you do just a couple wraps though, man, it's really biting worse than it should be. Come on, buddy. Work with me here. I should be able to tighten it up like I'm doing here. You can see that end going in. And then getting that last couple wraps to lock it in. Trying to think if there is another. One thing, that one tire that I tied with quite commonly, he had eyesight problems. He was older, so what he would do is he would start off like this, and he just use his pen and do a half hitch and bring it over, because he had a lot of trouble lining it up, and that'll hold it in. It'll allow you to move it along the shank here. But when you get your tie-in spot, wherever that is, as soon as you get, I keep hitting my own bobbin, 1 second. As soon as you get a couple wraps on that, it's not going to go anywhere. It'll be tied in place, and you got a half hitch. So if you have eyesight problems, goodbye bobbin, just landed in my trash can. At least didn't fall on the floor, I suppose. See how dirty you are. All the stuff stuck to you. Poor thing. There we go. Okay. But yeah, the one tire I was tying with, he had a lot of problems with tremors in his hands, and he had eyesight problems and thick old bottle glasses like the Trailer Park Boys. So he'd always start off like this. That way he could have his bobbin in one hand and he's controlling the line in the same hand. So if he's shaking all over the place like this, when he's trying to get it in, he could get it in. And he could get it on the hook. And then even if he's shaking, he could, get that wrapped around. I'm just exaggerating here so you guys can understand what was going on. Even though he's shaking and wrapping all over the place, he could get that thread on there. So there's lots of modifications you can do for getting your thread on the hook. And there's more than that too. Those are just the kind of their most common ways to start a thread. I've even seen some people starting down here, going all the way this way, so there's nothing holding this thread on. I can pull it right off. I've seen lots of people start that way. It's not a method that I'd necessarily recommend because it's not adding anything to it, but again, there's no right or wrong way. All the way to this end, and then all the way back. So you do that if you're going to start off tying in a tail. You do it the other direction if you're going to start off tying in your head. But this is bound all the way across. Again, not my cup of tea, but this is strong enough now that I can pull that off, and I can continue wrapping my material. One of my mentors, an older mentor, he's Japanese, named Yosh. He used to tie all his hooks in starting that way. Yeah, so there's always ways around. Well, hopefully you can find a way around medical conditions like that. But he was an awesome tyer. I liked learning from him, even though he had a whack of medical stuff that was preventing him from tying well, or giving him some hurdles to jump anyway. But the one tyer I was talking about, his name was Josh, and he would start at the base here, and he really liked the rotary vices, so he'd do that, and then he'd go back this way. And for him, that was the way he tied every fly. He'd always started off like that. He tied a lot more nymphs. He liked fishing nymphs, but that gave him both a grippy body and a tie-in point and a thread base all in one go. Again, not my thing. There's nothing wrong with it. He owned a fly shop and he tied probably hundreds of thousands of flies, and he always did it that way. Trying to think if there's other methods I can think of off the top of my head. I'm just trying to wing this, but hopefully that works for everyone. I think I'll leave it there because there's many other variations. We could sit here all day coming up with different ways to tie the thread on. But those are the ones I know of that, you know, I don't want to say professional, but, you know, tyers that have been tying a long time. Those are the ways I've seen them do it for tying in the thread. And different ups and downs for each one. So we'll pop the hook out. But I think I'll call it for the day for that, and we'll call it good. So hopefully everyone enjoyed that little blurb into how to tie the thread on. Maddie, I hope you're still in the stream because we went over all that for you, and everyone else in the chat too. Hopefully that helps. Yeah, I'm sure Yoshi will for sure. But yeah, just I'll give my quick little shout outs here. So we got Bay Fishing, Yoshi, we got Wee Man, we got Robert, we got Jack Pepper dropped in. K-Fish was here, I'm not sure if he's still here anymore. We had a bunch of new tires. We had Chevrolet today. Oh no, nymphs can get quite large, especially around here. Our nymphs can get up to like you know, size 2s and stuff. Our nymphs can get quite large. Yeah, we had Maddie, no frills. We had quite a few new people in today. Let's see who else we had that was new. We had Maddie with the questions that we did with the thread base. Like I said, K-Fish is already, I think, come and gone. I know I'm missing a few people here. Oh, we had Glacier Shark. Shark! K-Fish Adventures. Who am I missing? There was someone else that was here. Sorry guys, I'm trying to figure out who I had. Where was it now? Glacier Shark. I just modded them. There was another person that I modded. Why am I not seeing them? Ah, right. Fishing with Greg. That's who it was. Sorry, Greg. Yeah, we had Fishing with Greg. New guy jumped in. That's awesome. Always good to have a new tire. We had a couple people drop in from South Africa, which is sweet. I like my South African tires. We had a good bunch of crew in today. Some new guys. We had Water Fox, of course. He's fairly new here, but I enjoy having him in. Ewaz. And I think that's it. If I'm missing you, I apologize. You guys all have a good morning. Yeah, have a blessed day. Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy your week. Be safe out there.